You are sitting in a conference room. The clock ticks past 9:15. The door finally opens, and your colleague quietly slides into an empty chair, 15 minutes late to an important meeting. Immediately, a verdict forms in your head. He couldn't be bothered to wake up on time. He doesn't respect anyone else's schedule. He is simply lazy and unprofessional. Notice what doesn't cross your mind. You don't pause to wonder if a water pipe burst in his apartment, or if his car battery died in the driveway. When we watch someone stumble, our brains default to prosecuting the person. We completely ignore the world they are trying to navigate. Let's rewind the tape. Only this time, you are the one sprinting down the hallway, bursting through that exact same conference room door, 15 minutes behind schedule. You know exactly why you're late. Your phone updated in the middle of the night, so the alarm never went off, and the interstate was paralyzed by a massive pileup. The infraction is identical, but your internal monologue is completely different. Your colleague was late because of a character flaw. You were late because the universe conspired against you. Psychologists call this the actor-observer bias. We judge others by their personality, but we evaluate our own actions through our circumstances. This cognitive glitch acts as an invisible wedge in our relationships. It guarantees that two people can experience the exact same event and leave completely incapable of understanding one another. The actor-observer bias belongs to a much broader psychological phenomenon known as the fundamental attribution error. This is our pervasive tendency to overemphasize personality traits and drastically underestimate situational variables when evaluating human behavior. To measure how deep this runs, researchers analyzed hundreds of letters sent to syndicated newspaper advice columns. The letters followed a highly predictable pattern. When writers complained about a spouse or neighbor, they blamed inherent personality defects. But when those same writers explained their own questionable actions, they pointed entirely to difficult situations. The verdicts we hand down to people around us are rarely objective truths. They are highly subjective interpretations dictated entirely by who takes the action. The reason we make this error comes down to basic biology, specifically a mechanical process called perceptual salience. It is entirely driven by what the human eye physically focuses on. When acting as the observer, the other person commands your attention. Your brain treats their surroundings as irrelevant background noise. But as the actor, your perspective flips. You can't see yourself. Your entire visual field is instead consumed by the environmental hurdles you must overcome. Overriding this optical illusion takes work. To realize that another person is facing invisible pressures requires an energy-draining, deliberate process called System 2 thinking. If you are carrying a heavy cognitive load, if you are fatigued, if you are stressed, or rushing through your day, your brain abandons that effortful thinking. It takes a shortcut and accepts the easiest visual explanation. Unfair judgments rarely stem from malice. They are the unfortunate byproduct of a brain trying to conserve calories. But as this mental shortcut scales up, the consequences grow severe. It produces the just world fallacy, where society looks at victims of poverty, accidents, or crime, and assumes they somehow brought it on themselves. By attributing another person's failure to a character flaw, the observer protects their own peace of mind. If bad things only happen to careless people, we get to maintain the comforting illusion that we are safe from random tragedy. This exact error dictates international relations. Whole nations interpret the actions of their rivals through this deeply flawed lens. A government will justify rolling its own military hardware through the streets as a strict necessity for national defense, while viewing the exact same display from a rival nation as absolute proof of an aggressive, evil nature. An evolutionary visual shortcut designed to save our brains a few calories predictably scales up to cause systemic injustice and justify global conflict. Overriding this biological default requires a behavioral science intervention known as forced perspective taking. It requires deliberately treating your initial judgments with suspicion. Whenever another person makes an error, you have to actively pause and invent the unseen situational obstacles that might explain their behavior. By routinely acknowledging that everyone else is navigating a maze we cannot see, we can dismantle our immediate hostility and treat one another with actual empathy.